So moving on in the agenda, we are now going to talk about recovery. For recovery is basically you took a backup of you, have you lags, and now you want to recover from that backup or reading the lags. This happens normally when there is a problem that happens. Maybe there was a crash in your system, or maybe there was incorrect information. So there are different types of recovery. The first one is a crash or restart recovery. So what this means is, let's say you are working on a desktop and you are working with your database, and then all of a sudden there is a blackout, so you lose your electricity, or maybe somebody trips on the cord that was powering your desktop. So then your computer powers up or crashes because of this, and then what you do next is plug in the plug again, you start your computer again, and then you will start the DB2 instance again, or DB2 will start again. What's going to happen is that DB2 automatically will run a command called restart database. Restart database means that or what DB2 will do at that time, it will read the active logs at the time, and whatever information was committed, it will redo. Whatever it was not committed, it will undo. So basically, it will make sure a restart database will make sure that whatever you had saved and committed in the logs will be there for you, and whatever was not committed, meaning that actually you did not explicitly save this information, then it will not be, that part will be lost, but at least DB2 will bring back whatever you explicitly saved. So it's like again in the Word document, and you are working on a Word document. Whenever you click on save, that information will be guaranteed to be saved and you can recover, but whatever you did not save, that will not be recovered. So that's the same thing we are doing here with the crash recovery. Now for a version or image recovery, what that means is we are running, let's say you took a backup and now you want to, for some reasons, you want to restore from the backup. So you took a backup, it's like taking a picture of a database, and now you restore from that image to that point in time. And then finally, we have a roll forward recovery, which is basically you took a backup and then you are going to restore from that backup, but as well you are going to roll forward the logs to the latest point in time. And a roll forward recovery is normally used in production, and it is normally used to the closest point in time. So for example, going back to the example of human error, let's say your user was creating an application where he has increased the salary of all employees in the company by 10%, but he made a mistake. Instead of putting 10%, he put 100%. So nobody knew about this problem, and the application started changing this information in the database, and many of the processes were using this information. And what's going to happen is you have your database working perfectly, information in the database is not correct. Normally, once everybody got their paycheck and then everybody got a big surprise, then the DBA noticed about this problem, and at that point, the database administrator will have to call this person who created this application, and then he will have to restore the information that was available before. The application was run, and then I have to run again the application using that correct percentage for the increase on salary. So the DBA will probably ask the application programmer to say, when was this application scheduled? Based on that, he will probably have to find out the closest backup. So he will find a backup at the time and apply a restore on that. So we restore on that, and then he would have to roll forward the logs up to a given point that is consistent. And so again, we come to the topic about having archival logs and using archival logging, because if you don't have those logs are overwritten, that is not, you cannot really roll forward. You cannot just do the backup and that's it. But if you had this other logs archive, get closer to the point where the human error occurred, and then once you roll forward to the closest point, you can start running the application again using the right increase percentage for your salary, and then the database will be consistent again with correct information. So those are the types of recovery. And now if you want to run a restore, you can run a restore using the syntax that I provide here. Again, this is a simple syntax. You can run a db2 with the restore from the db2 command window as I did with backup. Take a look at more information on restore. Now you can say restore database name from the path. This is optional. Whatever is in square brackets is optional. That's the syntax that we use. And taken at is also optional, but taken at would be good to put when you have several images on the same directory. So that's the way you would identify which of the several images is the one that you want. And then, well, that is what I already showed you. This is the syntax for the backup image, and you will be stored. So let's do this example where I first dropped the database sample, but in the previous exercise we back up the database sample. So we back up it up. We can drop it now and we restore. There are other utilities that allow you to check that database is not the database image of the backup. The backup image is in good state as well. Well, that may be a good thing to do as well in a production environment before you issue a drop, or in general it may be good to do it before you issue a drop. But in our case, we are just, so we go to db2 drop db sample, and again we're already connected here. So let me force applications all. I think that happens because I was using control center. And I check for this. So let me close this control center as well. Let me now drop database sample, and the database sample is successfully drop now. So let me just connect. If I try to connect to sample, I should get an error. db to connect to sample, database sample is no longer there. Now I'm going to run a restore. Can do this db to restore db sample from C backups, and now in this directory there was only one image. So if I run it like this, it should work, but just for the purposes of this demo. I'm going to put the timestamp as well. So I'm going to say taken at, put the timestamp which finishes all the way here. So I need to add that, so that I will timestamp you don't need. The 001, that's millisecond, that's not required. And then I press enter to restore the sample database. So it may take a few seconds or minutes depending on the size of the database. But while it's restoring, let's see what's the next on the PowerPoint presentation. Let's see. So these are things that you can do with backup and restore. You can restore over an existing database. You can clone a backup image, so that let's say you take a backup of your database in Toronto and your computer had 2 disks. Where the backup information was stored. Now you take that backup image to China, and now you want to restore this database in this computer in China, but the computer in China only has 1 disk. So if you are going to restore the disk image, then it will complain, because where is it going to put it? I cannot put the same layout or use the same layout because you only have 1 disk. So in this case, you can use our redirected restore, and basically with the redirected restore, you will be prompted where you want to store given table space. Where should I put it, and you will fill in the information. Now with db2 version 9, there is a script that can be created for you, so that it reduces for this selected store, you can also do backups on table spaces. You don't need to backup the entire database. You can restore only spaces from a full backup image. You don't need to restore the entire database. You can do delta and incremental backups. You can do backup from the recover drop tables if you turn on the option to save some information about drop tables. So let's go back to the command window and we can see restore database completed successfully, and I can try to now connect to the sample database, and I should be able to connect to the sample database as you can see. So the backup work, the restore work as well.